There's a lot to get to, and we're really pleased to have Memo Mihretu. He is a senior advisor to Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Mr. Mihretu, thank you so much for being here. So I want to start here. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister today said that government forces have recaptured territory in the Tigray region. Can you confirm this? And where is the Prime Minister at this point in time?
Well, I mean, yes, the government forces are making considerable advance. They are retaking positions in towns that have been previously occupied by the insurgent group. So militarily, we're making significant progress, and we're confident that we will basically make advance and achieve victory. And of course, the Prime Minister, as the Commander-in-Chief of the National Army, is leading the army, boosting its morale. After he joined the battlefield, we've made significant progress. Yes.
Up till now, thousands have died, and also many face famine. The UN warns of millions facing it ultimately. What are you doing to contain some of this damage?
I think, first of all, I think it's very important for your listeners and your viewers to know that what's happening in Ethiopia right now is an authoritarian insurrection by an armed group trying to topple a democratically elected government. They want to use violence. They want to use unarmed means to bring about regime change. And that is quite unacceptable. It's unacceptable in Ethiopia, as it's unacceptable elsewhere. And the government has a responsibility to protect the Ethiopian people. The government has a responsibility to protect the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and that's precisely what we are doing. But as part of this, obviously, there are significant humanitarian issues, humanitarian crisis, mainly because of offensive that was taken by TPLF, this armed insurgent group. And the government is doing whatever it can to make sure that humanitarian assistance is available to those who need it. And we're committed to do that.
What, is that actually happening, though, Dr. Mihretu? Because as we mentioned, we heard that aid from the Prime Minister has cut off aid to the Tigray region, and there's millions of people who are at the risk of famine. So if the Prime Minister is focused on advancing and being victorious, how is he balancing then getting aid to the people who need it?
No, we're not actually cutting aid to people who need it, whether they're in Tigray or elsewhere in other parts of Ethiopia. In fact, the Ethiopian government is committed to remove barriers to humanitarian operation. It's our view that humanitarian assistance, whether it's food or medicine or any form of humanitarian assistance, should reach those people who need it. And what's happening in Ethiopia is TPLF, the insurgent group, is taking the offensive to the main trade corridor, the Ethio-Djibouti trade corridor, making humanitarian operation quite difficult. So it's not the Ethiopian government, it's actually TPLF that made relief assistance quite difficult. But having said that, we are doing everything that we can to make sure that flights to Tigray and flights to other parts of the country is resuming, so that relief operators will have the opportunity to reach people who need humanitarian assistance. Just as a matter of fact, in the past couple of days, trucks are moving to Tigray. But I think I want to also point out that it's not just in Tigray that people need humanitarian assistance. It's mainly in other areas, including Amara and Afar, because the TPLF has expanded the war effort, moving it out of Tigray to the neighboring regions. So the fact, when people say there's a conflict in Tigray, that's not true, because the conflict right now not in Tigray, it's actually in Amara and Afar regions. And as I said, we are doing whatever that we can to make sure that people who need humanitarian assistance are actually getting it.
I'm wondering what your conversations look like with the US and the EU at this point in time as well.
Well, of course, we have a strong bilateral relationship with the United States. We've been engaging with our friends in the US on a number of issues in a very open and candid manner. Of course, this conflict has to come to an end one way or another very soon. And we are discussing and we're having open dialogue, as I said, in ways of bringing about peaceful resolution or resolution to this conflict. And the same thing goes to the European Union.
Mr. Mihretu, is it too far gone, though, for peaceful dialogue, considering that the escalation has really widened over the past year from both sides, right? And so if the Prime Minister is focused on being victorious, we have the Tigrayans focused also as well on being victorious. How does this resolve itself? What is it that you're hoping for? How does this look like? How does this play out?
Well, first of all, the government of Ethiopia wants peace in Ethiopia, and we are working very closely with our friends in the U.S. and with the European Union to make that happen. So anything that we can do to shorten this conflict is something that we will always consider.
But but we've heard the Prime Minister say that he's going to the front lines and encouraging Ethiopians to do so as well. So that doesn't exactly equal peace to many people. So can you just explain that a little bit further?
I think here is the thing. The government of Ethiopia has a responsibility to protect Ethiopians. We have a responsibility to maintain the stability and the sovereignty of the country. And our military operation is, at its core, essentially, it's a defensive one. When TPLF, when this insurgent armed group is expanding to the neighboring region, particularly Afar and Amara, we cannot sit idle. We have to respond. We have to make sure that a military path to political power is unacceptable in the present day and age. So in that sense, what we are currently trying to do is to reverse the military advance, the military offensive that was initiated by TPLF. Once we conclude that successfully, and I'm sure, I can assure you confidently that we will do so, then of course, we'll think about, a way of, bringing an end to this conflict and then, returning peace to Ethiopia. And obviously continuing with the reform that the Prime Minister has initiated 3 years ago.
I want to read you a statement from the U.S. after a call with Kenyan President Kenyatta last week. The U.S. Secretary of State's office released the statement that Secretary Blinken expressed grave concern about worrying signs of military escalation in Ethiopia and emphasized the need to urgently move to negotiations. How do you respond to that?
But let me say this, as I said, we in Ethiopia, with the Ethiopian government, would like to see an end to this conflict. So there's no question about that. We are on the record in saying that we are open to candid African initiative, peace initiative, supported by the African Union to bring to an end this conflict. We are currently working very actively with our neighbors, including Kenya, and of course, and working very actively with African Union High Representative for the Horn of Africa, the former president of Nigeria, President Zabasajja, to bring to an end to the ongoing conflict. So discussions are ongoing, but of course, I must also point out that peace cannot come by simply because one declares the desire for peace. We need, the other party needs to take concrete steps to make sure that peace is their preferred way. In that sense, I think the most important thing that they can do is to lay their arms, to demobilize, and also withdraw their troops from the areas that they currently occupy, but particularly in Amhara and Afar.
Would the Prime Minister be open to an election?
And he said an election.
Another election.
Why? Because this government has been duly elected only a few months ago. Close to 50 million Ethiopians voted perhaps in the first election that we ever had. And this government is legitimate. It has the support of a large majority of Ethiopians. So there is no reason for us to go to a second round of election when we have a full mandate from the Ethiopians, from the general Ethiopian public.
All right. Right. Memo Mihretu, senior advisor to Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Thank you so much, Mr. Mihretu, for your time. We're going to have more on the conflict in Ethiopia next, dissect it a little bit more in 2 minutes. This is Quick Take Charge.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quicktake now for insight in an instant.